On today's question of faith, what is a lay ecclesial minister? Hey there, everybody. This is Question of Faith. I am Mike Hayes. I am the Director of Young Adult Ministry here in the Diocese of Cleveland.
And I'm Father Damien Ference, the Vicar for Evangelization.
And I'm Michelle Nowak, the Director of Lay Ecclesial Ministry for the Diocese of Cleveland.
Hey, you're new.
I am new.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
You're the perfect person to have on this show for this, to answer this question.
Imagine that.
Wow, it worked out.
That does help very much to define what it is I do, right? Or
Exactly.
what it is I am in some ways. A lay ecclesial minister is actually a generic term, according to co-workers in the Vineyard.
What's co-workers in the Vineyard?
Yeah.
That is a document that the bishops put out to define the scope of what lay ecclesial ministry is, and in many ways what the formation should entail, and how should people understand what it means to be the role of a lay ecclesial minister.
Okay, so for some time, when people thought of ministry in the church, they would think of priests, they would think of religious. I just recently read the four documents, the main constitutions of the Second Vatican Council, and again, I've read them before, but the laity were called forth to be salt, light, and leaven for the world. So the primary role of the laity is like out in the world doing their mission is being and living where they live and move and have their being and all that. But lay people are also called to do particular ministry in the church, and this is something that's not novel, but has been highlighted since the Second Vatican Council. So the Lay Ecclesial Ministry Office in the diocese is about how old? Do you know? It's about 30 years maybe? Or
I would say it's getting closer to 40 years because they're in the 80s. There was initially, class people that were certified as lay ecclesial ministers. So it's been here for a while.
And it used to be called the Pastoral Ministry Office.
Pastoral Ministry was less of a mouthful than lay ecclesial ministry, which now people are like, what's something?
Right.
And I thought that was such an important piece in the term. Because to myself, I thought, well, pastoral ministry is so much easier to say. But in looking at the information too, and trying to understand, to help people understand what is a lay ecclesial minister, because so often I get the question, well, why do I do that? Why would I become certified? What does it mean? And I think at the heart of it, that ecclesial part of the term is we're meant to serve the church, right? But we're not meant to serve the church it's in that sense of our sacrament of initiation, that we are helping in the work of the church, but it's authenticated by the hierarchy. So there's that sense that, you have had formation, that you have been academically, that there's a way in which you are set apart for service and leadership based on, and that the bishop would authenticate in our certification ceremonies that happened in October. So.
Yeah, I remember when I went to grad school, the dean sat me down and said, well, he said, we started the school, he said, in order to give people training so it's not just the willing volunteer who showed up who kind of knows the catechism and who's now teaching people. And he said that, and they're very nice and they're very helpful and everything else. He goes, but they're not ministers. He goes, and they're not people who should be doing the various things that we're doing. So we're going to give you training to do that.
Absolutely.
And that's what our seminary does here as well, right?
Right. And for some, it's, they've had an academic background. Maybe they studied theology or had that aspect of it. But part of being a lay ecclesial minister and that authorization that the bishop gives for certification says also you've been formed. You've been formed spiritually. You've been formed pastorally to understand what does it mean to lead in the ministry that you are for lay people, you know, and again, not ordained, but in that way of collaborating and working together and cooperating with the service of the church.
Hence, co-workers.
Co-workers, that's it, co-workers.
And you are a lay ecclesial minister, correct? A certified lay. And when were you certified? And what was the process like, and what is it like now?
So the process was similar, same as it is today. When I went through the program about 20 years ago, there's the academic portion, about 30 credit hours of academic preparation, and I chose to do my academic work at St. Mary's Seminary, which was just a wonderful experience and a privilege to study there and get my master's in theology. And then there's the formation on Friday nights, where once a month on Friday night formation, you come with a cohort that each year is a focus of formation. So there's human formation year 1, spiritual formation year 2, pastoral formation year 3. And then along with that is mentoring experiences, so that you're meant to go out and gain experience beyond your area of ministry. At the time, I was a youth minister at St. Helen Parish and went through the program, but my mentoring experiences were out at St. Gabriel's Church. They were at St. Noel's in RCIA, in PSR. And I thought, will I ever do these different ministries? And sure enough, of course, over time, I was involved in those ministries as well. So that mentoring was valuable. And then a field experience, something that brings together all the mentoring experiences that you do, where you create something unique. And for me, at the time, it was a service week that we still do at St. Helens after all these years, called Harvest Workers. So that was something I created out of all my mentoring experiences and formation. That's cool. What it still is today. So
that's great. And so you started in this office part-time back in February or January?
January.
And then you just concluded your time. You were working at Notre Dame Cathedral Latin High School as the chair of the theology department prior to this new position. And then you came into this position in June. Is that correct? So full-time in June.
Full-time in June.
And you just welcomed in your first cohort. Is that what you call a class that comes in together, or is there a name for it?
I don't know that there's an official name, but I've been calling it a cohort.
Cohort sounds nice.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
So we just welcomed in a new group of 6 in our group, all women, but from different areas. And lay ecclesial ministry is also for both men and women as well in the church, as the opportunity to serve again in the different roles that we serve in the parish. But a great group, diversified in areas of ministry too, some youth ministry, some teachers, some as well in marriage ministries, and looking to be certified to do more work in the church.
And different ages too, right? You have
20s to probably, I don't know, I'm going to guess in the range of 50s, but yes, absolutely, all
That's
age
awesome.
ranges, and I would say within the program overall too, same across the board. So yeah, it's a wide variety, and it makes for a great sharing within that formation process of experience. And not experiences of faith, but also experiences of ministry.
And you just kicked off your year of formation with a retreat at the seminary, at the Center for Pastoral Leadership, and Fr Mark Ott was the retreat director.
He was our retreat director, and it was the Glorious Road to Joy was our retreat, and it was a great retreat on the concept of finding that enduring joy in the midst of life and in the midst of overcoming experiences of shame in different ways. So
cool.
Shout out to Fr Mark. He did an incredible job.
How many made the retreat?
There were 35 of us on retreat.
Wow.
So
did they comment on the newly renovated rooms at the seminary at
all? They did love the
Yeah.
renovated rooms. And they were actually, people were asking about, can we come back and have retreats here at different times? Because it was an incredible gathering space. And then we had the rooms that were like, amazing hotel suites. They really were incredible. And the food they commented on was really good too. So we give a shout out to the culinary crew. Joe
and the crew
they did a great job. But it was a good kickoff to our year, because our retreat combined those already certified with those in formation. So again, a nice opportunity to grow that community as well, and to be able to get to know each other and share understanding of ministry.
I was out there while you were having your retreat, and one of the retreatants came out, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And she said, "Wonderful. I just came out of confession." So it was the culmination of this whole retreat on shame, she said, and it was really great.
It was great. Yeah. We had adoration, reconciliation, and then closed with Mass with the Becoming Fire group.
Correct.
As well, which was a good experience.
Where we avoided the rain.
We avoided the rain with Bishop Woost.
That was great. How'd you get mixed up in all this anyway? What made you become a lay ecclesial minister back in the day?
It was honestly an invitation as part of my role as a youth minister at St. Helens Parish. Father J. McPhillips said, I would like you to become certified as, at the time, pastoral minister. And at our parish, we had 2 pastoral ministers working there at the time and wanted for me to go through that process as well. So that began the journey. So I checked into, understanding all that was part of it, and then got my degree as well with the seminary.
Nice.
I was thinking is cool is so just to recap where all this is taking place, it's out in Wycliffe at a place called the Center for Pastoral Leadership. Before 1991, that was Borromeo College of Ohio, and our St. Mary's Seminary used to be on Ansel Road, which is by the Art Museum in Severance. But all that came together in 1991. Bishop Pilla decided we're going to put all these ministry folks together, and we're going to use the Wycliffe campus as a hub for training of ministers. So the big entities out there are St. Mary's Seminary, Borromeo Seminary, the Lay Ecclesial Ministry Program, the ongoing Formation for Clergy Program, the Permanent Diaconate Program, and then the Vocation Office is out there too. So there are 6 entities, not to mention there's a grade school on campus as well, All Saints, and a lot of other things that are going on there. But what I thought of the other day, and it didn't occur to me before, was now that you are in charge of lay ecclesial ministry, and now that Father Turner is the new president rector of both St. Mary's Seminary and Borromeo Seminary, we have our first 2 Gen X folks leading those ministries. And that wasn't the case before. It was always baby boomer or greatest generation. So you're the first Gen Xer. Gen Xers born between 1964 and 1981. So we're all part of the Gen X.
Correct.
The
generation.
Yeah, generation, yeah. So anyway, it was kind of cool to think about.
And it is a nice opportunity for that, being that Center for Pastoral Leadership too, to combine our ministries. I know for our formation this year, we have Saturday workshops as part of formation, and every one of those will begin with Mass with the diaconate group and breakfast with their wives, as well as we start our day and then go on to our workshop. And our first September workshop, Father Andy Turner is leading it on the Strength Finders.
That's great.
And the seminarians are taking part in it with our people in formation. So it really brings us together in formation because we'll be working together in the church.
Yeah,
it's a great opportunity.
The folks who are in permanent diacon formation, such as myself, we were all excited to hear that you guys were going to be out with us from time to time. So we're like, good, because we're all going to be working together at some point, right?
It's great to form those relationships early.
Indeed.
So.
I'm going to say a thought out loud just because if I don't, it's going to bother me. So I was thinking of the 5 living generations today. So greatest generation, baby boomers, Gen X, millennial, and the Zoomers. Only 2, greatest generation and Gen X, have the word generation in their title. But baby boomers don't, millennials don't, and Zoomers don't. And that's interesting. Okay, that was a tangent. I just had to say it. You could edit it out if you want.
No, we'll keep it in.
It's worth pondering.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was what I did my first book on, was the difference between Gen X and millennials, for the most part. So, yeah.
There's a woman named Jean Twenge who wrote a book called The I Generation, which they really didn't take that name, but it is about the Zoomers, like those born after 1996. Like Mary Fugate would be part of that. I think Carrie Regan maybe on our floor. Those are people on our floor. But I guess she just wrote a new book on all the generations, like a recapitulation of the generations. So that would be something interesting, because we all have different experiences of church because of the time that we grew up in the church. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and world events as well as your own personal events. So those all contribute.
All that cultural setting, all that stuff. Yeah.
So, Michelle, if I wanted to become a lay ecclesial minister, how would I go about doing that?
The first step would be you could contact our office. You could also check out our website through the Diocesan Parish Life website, is the Lay Ecclesial Ministry website as well, to get information. Contacting me, then you'd have the opportunity to see and share time with us in prayer and get more information about the program. And in January, we will have an information night, like a large-scale information night, but one-on-one opportunity to talk about the program and the requirements for that as well.
And do I have to be like hired by my parish already? Do I have to be active in a parish? Like what are some of the touchstones there?
You don't.
Before?
You don't have to already be working in ministry to go into the program of formation, because part of the formation process is to end that certification and then be hired, right, in a parish or through the diocese. You do not, though. And you don't even have to have had background necessarily in theology for the academic pieces, although it's always a good thing to begin. But if feeling the call, maybe working or having volunteered and wanting more in your church, parish work is a place to start.
Right. Might help if you had a background, but doesn't.
But it is not a requirement.
Right. It won't hurt you if you don't. Yeah.
No, that is correct.
So you were a youth minister at your parish, and you were a DRE, right? And you were head of the theology department. What other ministries would lay ecclesial ministers be involved in?
So besides the parish catechetical leaders, you have pastoral associates, school principals is listed under in the co-workers document as well. Those in coordinators of liturgy or worship, music as well. And youth ministers, campus ministers, those would all be under the umbrella of what is considered a lay ecclesial minister.
And I know that
parish.
You have talked and you're thinking about perhaps a spiritual director's track. Where does that stand now? Or is that, if someone wanted to be a spiritual director, are you prepared for that kind of training yet? Or is that down the road? Or what are your thoughts?
That would be a vision for the program to maybe specialize in an area of spiritual direction. It is part of the formation is the spiritual formation, but there is not as of yet a spiritual tract for someone to be formed. There's, John Carroll has the Ignatian Spirituality Institute for the training of spiritual directors in the area. But outside of that, that is definitely a vision that I have for the program, because there's such a great need for spiritual directors beyond all of our priests in the diocese and religious that have been asked, and then those that are certified to be spiritual directors too. So that would be a great addition to the pastoral ministry or lay ecclesial ministry program.
Yeah, we get plenty of requests for people looking for a good spiritual direction. I just did a little workshop in spiritual direction out at Becoming Fire, and the number of people who are like, oh yeah, this is something I really need to do was astounding. I was like, okay, good. We've kind of planted that seed now, but now we have to find spiritual directors for people at the same time, right? So
in terms of formation, I'm more familiar with how seminaries do formation. I'm wondering, do lay ecclesial ministers follow the same 4 domains of human, spiritual, intellectual, pastoral?
Exactly.
Is that written in the documents too?
That's right. So the intellectual is the academic piece of the requirement of certain hours of certain courses that have to be completed. And then the first year of formation is the human formation, and there's certain standards that have to be met to see, have you been formed? Are you, in all of these specific areas? Second year is spiritual, and then the third year is pastoral. Okay. And I think in a lot of ways the mentoring and field experience help with the pastoral as well.
Sure.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah, that's great. So, Michelle, thanks for joining us today. It's great to have you, and glad that you're sort of up at Wycliffe most of the time, but down here every once in a while. So it's good to see you in the office.
Thanks. Good to be here.
And hey, we just finished 9 nights of night prayer, and you took a trip.
I did. Well, I took a trip every night because I visited all 9 parishes, and that's one of my favorite parts of being vicar for evangelization, secretary for parish life, is going out to the parishes and meeting people and hearing about what's going on at their parish and making connections, and even visiting churches that I've never visited before. So although I visited all 9 of the locations, I've concluded on the 9th night all the way down in Loudonville, which is the most southern tip of our diocese. St. Peter's is the parish, and it's actually closer to the Cathedral of the Diocese of Columbus than it is to St. John's Cathedral up here in Cleveland. So it's about 80 miles south of downtown Cleveland. And the parish life coordinator is a guy named Ken Couric, who's a great man, and he's been a parishioner there for some time. So they have priests that come and visit each weekend. So it's a newer model of parish, but the parish is on fire down there. So hello to everyone if you're listening to the podcast down from Loudonville. I did not have a Mass scheduled for that day, so I asked Ken if I could take the evening Mass, and so I took the evening Mass at 7 and stuck around for night prayer. But also, I should say, before I did that, I stopped at Country Parlor Ice Cream at their headquarters in North Royalton and picked up 2 buckets of Black Madonna ice cream, because Country Parlor, although they do deliver far and wide in Northeast Ohio, they don't deliver all the way down to Loudonville. So I put the buckets of ice cream in a cardboard box in my trunk and drove them down there, and they did not melt in that hour and 20-minute drive, and tasted that ice cream after. The church, if you haven't been down there, was restored recently, and it's gorgeous. It's small, but beautiful, quaint, and the people sing and they participate. And what that region's probably best known for is Mohican, canoeing, kayaking, all the water sports. So a lot of people go down there to camp. And I think although the parish is pretty active, it's very active in the summertime. So it was a Tuesday night when I was there. And, just a wonderful time. So if you've never been down to Loudonville, take a trip. It's lovely.
Are we required to bring Country Parlor ice cream with us if we go?
You may have to, although I'm sure they have some local ice cream down there. And depending on what exit you get off at, you may get off at the exit where Grandpa's Cheese Barn is. So maybe you get some of Grandpa's cheese.
Everybody loves the ice cream man, though. So
they do.
You know.
But a lot of people like cheese too. I love cheese.
It's true. My wife loves cheese. Mm-hmm. If you ever go to a party, if you're looking for my wife, just look for the cheese. You'll find her. She'll be right there.
Cheese is a good thing.
One of my partner teachers at Borromeo, Dr. Beth Rath, she does not like cheese at all. So yeah. So some people like cheese, some don't. Maybe cheese in an ice cream. No?
No.
That would be gross.
That does not sound good.
No.
Dairy, both dairy.
A little too much dairy, yeah.
Too much dairy might be a little overload.
Darn it.
What a friend we have in cheeses. Anyway, that was a Father Dan Schleichel joke.
Yeah. It's funny.
And then we'll take a look at our readings for this coming Sunday, which is the 22nd Sunday in Ordinary Time. I took a look at the Psalm this week. So, my soul is thirsting for you, O Lord my God. One of my favorites from Psalm 63, that we always long for God in all that we do.
I actually took a look. What stood out to me was from the first reading. I have loved Jeremiah and how he would cry out to God. And the one line, I say to myself, I will not mention him. I will speak in his name no more. But then it becomes like a fire burning in my heart, imprisoned in my bones. And I think of all the times that we experience suffering, and like on a personal note, like times that I've ever experienced great suffering and think, that's it. I'm just going to, like somehow it's going to make a difference if I turn away from God, right? Like I'm going to show him for my suffering. But you can't, because you just know too much, and your heart burns with that passion for the Lord. And where would I go, right? Just like Jeremiah. So I grow weary holding it in. I can't endure it.
I, too, like Jeremiah, he was a young prophet. He thought he was too young. God called him anyway. He had a plan for him. And then the reading starts, you duped me, O Lord, and I let myself be duped. And I've been there. I actually preached on that fairly recently, that not this particular passage, but that the Lord tricked me as he does, but in a good way, because he loves me. He calls me here, and I think I'm going there, but then he brings me over here because that's where he needs me and that's where I need to be. So that's kind of funny. And it's nice to know that the prophets all went through that too. It's like, oh, okay, that helps me understand my own experience, because I felt like you duped me. But you're still faithful to me too, and that's the important part.
My friend Fr Mark Massa of the Society of Jesus, he had a blog back in the day called "You Duped Me, Lord."
Oh yeah,
yeah. It was actually very good.
Is he at Loyola Chicago? That name
he's at Loyola New Orleans, actually, I believe.
Okay. Is he a poet? Does he write on literature or something? I know his name. I know the name.
There's two Mark. I'm just going to say Massa off the top. So there's a Mark Massa, who is a scholar of Catholic America, basically.
Oh, okay.
And then so he did a lot of American Catholic studies kind of stuff. That was his area, and he's at Boston College now. He was at Fordham when I was there. That's not the Mark that I'm talking about. This Father Mark is Fr Mark Massa, Mossa, as opposed to Massa. But the two of them have been getting each other's mail for years.
Both Jesuits?
Both Jesuits.
Oh, that is confusing.
Both of the New Orleans province.
Wow. That's like having Mike Hayes, Hayes, and Mike Haze.
Or Hays,
Yeah,
there's another
yeah.
spelling, yeah. There were 2 Mike Hayes in my house alone, I always say, because my father's, I'm a
Oh.
junior, my father's name was Michael, too, so, it was great growing up, phone rings, hi, is Mike there, Big Mike or Little Mike, you hated that when you were 15 years old, It's like, I'm taller than my father, I used to say.
Sometimes one goes by Michael, and the other one goes
Yes.
by Mikey or Mick or something, but you both went by Mike.
My father was Mike and I was Michael in the house, basically.
Oh.
So this way they can differentiate.
I see.
But then when I got older, I sort of resented that, so then I kind of went by Mike.
Michelle, did you ever have a nickname? Shell.
Shell.
Okay.
Yes, that is the nickname that I received because I refused to go by and made it clear that I did not want to ever be Shelly.
Oh.
I don't know why, and that's a great name for. I just was not one I wanted. So.
And your husband calls you Babelicious.
Yeah, Babelicious. That's the other term that I have. That's my nickname.
Michelle's husband is the youth minister down at St. Mary's in Hudson, so I was a co-worker in the Vineyard with him for 4 years. And I remember he's like, yeah, Babelicious says this. I'm like, who the heck is Babelicious? And it turns out it's Michelle Nowak, so.
That's a great nickname. One time he was in the ER, and he was in a lot of pain, and he was asking them to find Babelicious in the waiting room. So when they came out, there's only so many that have that nickname. That was me.
I can imagine being the nurse who had to walk in and go,
No,
Babelicious?
Is there
a Babelicious here?
That's me.
That's me. Okay.
Yeah, the music starts playing.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's great.
All right, so I think we've exhausted our topic on lay ecclesial ministry, but Michelle, thanks for joining us, and good luck in your new role.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
And we'll have this and a whole lot more next time on Question of Faith.